Welcome back, everyone, to another Company Fears 2 replaycast, and this time it is going to be a 44 on Lays, sent in by our boy Ironhide. Where are you? You are playing as the OKW. His friend is going to be Natchex, playing as the Wehrmacht. Let's speed it up very quickly. Kakaroto Salve. Wow, that is one hell of a name, especially with that caps, makes it even better. Of the SimCity clan, playing as the Wehrmacht. Sauron, OKW. On the opposing side, we have Vladimir Putin, Puppet22, Oddball, Muskus. Okay, very fun. So lots of Brits coming in, already coming for the middle. And on the left side, we're going to have a meeting between a couple of infantries and from both sides. Of course, in the center, we have the infantry sections. They're having a bit of trouble with these Storm Pioneers from Ironhide. They're going to be able to easily fire down from these windows and take out the poor infantry sections that jumped up a little bit too far. They shouldn't have gone in for the truck cover. They maybe should have stayed at long ranges so that they could have hoped to just get the infantry to miss. That would have been a better idea overall. On the right side, it seems like Sauron, the Dark Lord, is doing quite well against the conscript forces of Muskus. But Muskus has support coming in from the Brits, Oddball, and he's got a Vickers, but the Vickers has been forced to retreat by unknown entities. Yeah, I'm not quite sure what killed that Vickers. Anyway, yeah, overall, looks like the Germans have a bit of an advantage on the right side. They're doing quite well, and bringing in that machine gun and sniper from Kakaro, they're going to have quite an advantage along with the support, of course, from Sauron. So both of these guys, of course, in the same plan, they're going to be able to 2v2 up that side quite nicely. Going for the center, we have, of course, Ironhide, and he's doing just fine. He's got 3 infantry squads already, and his Storm Pioneers do have quite a bit of damage off on the infantry. But Puppet is already going from Fort Assembly, so of course he has upgraded that Tier 1, and he has advanced emplacements, so he can upgrade that with the extra armor at CP free, and then that's going to be able to quite easily withstand the advances of these Volksgrenadiers. Up until then, though, it's going to be quite difficult to defend against those incendiary grenades. Incendiary grenades are what Ironhide needs right now, and he's going to get them soon enough when he sets up this half-track. Meanwhile, on the left side, we have, unfortunately, Natchex. He's having some trouble. It looks like Vladimir Putin has been able to just get his units into the buildings and use those as cover enough to sort of repel these Assault Grenadiers. Assault Grenadiers are an unfortunate choice against such a playstyle because they don't really have all that much firepower unless they can get very close to the enemy. And with that machine gun, he can just suppress them down, and as soon as they appear, make sure that they're not going to get too close. Meantime, it looks like Ironhide is actually pushing up way more aggressively than I thought he would. He's having some problems because, of course, his enemy can reinforce off of the Fort Assembly, but they're, of course, getting flanked from multiple directions, which means that they have trouble with cover, and that grenade does a lot of damage to Volksgrenadiers, probably forcing them away. And still, because of the reinforcement constantly coming in off that Fort Assembly, we have Puppet that is going to be able to hold on to this position. Right now, Ironhide is coming in with the Sturmhaus, and we do have a grenade coming in. I'm thinking that was a miss from one of the infantry sections. Yeah, must have been a miss. Right now, Ironhide is setting up his battle group, but I don't think he's going to be able to continue up that pressure on the Fort Assembly long enough to get incendiary grenades off on that target. Unfortunately for him, because he was doing quite well. On the right side, we have some mortars coming in from Kakaroto, and he's having some successes in dealing with these machine guns. Looks like also a universal carrier went down on this side. Probably the work of a machine gun. Yeah, probably the work of this Vet 2 machine gun with the incendiary armor piercing rounds. Of course, very strong against light vehicles. Allies right now know to respect and fear that. Of course, on the right side, the real objective is this fuel point, and right now that is under control of Muskus, and he's flanked down the mine. Excellent little choice. He definitely wants to get that extra protection. So, of course, Muskus does have Tier 2 from the support weapons, of course, that he's setting up. We can see that, and he's going to need to get out an AT gun as quickly as possible because Sauron is going for a mechanized regiment headquarters, and if I was the Allies, I would think that on such a map, with, of course, open lines of fire and roads all around, his strategy would be to go for a Luke's or something like it. So right now that would be quite important for the allies to get. They need some defenses against the Lukes, but it doesn't seem like they're, giving that too much of a priority. In fact, they're going for shock troops instead. So lots of anti-infantry rather than some extra AT just in case. And that's kind of a problem because, of course, there's a lot of infantry, but with all the machine guns, they might be able to deal with it despite, well, even if they were lacking shock troops, they would be able to deal with that. But hey, that's just me. I still think that a AT gun would have been a very, very good idea for Moose Goose. Right now, it seems like these machine guns are having trouble due to the mortars. So also maybe some mortar teams for the allies might not be the worst idea. We do have a PM41 for Moose Goose. The problem is Oddball needs to really start to help out, and he does have some Piats and normal infantry sections pushing in from the flank, managing to force that mortar away. That's a very nice little flank, and then he can come in and cut off the enemy and also force the retreat of some extra forces from, of course, Sauron, who is having none of that and retreating back across to his base. He's going for a Luke's, in fact, so we'll see. I'm guessing that this is going to do a lot of damage, except he needs to take out those Piats first. Ironhide in the center is pushing up with his infantry and doing quite fine. He's also got the support of a support gun. Of course, that is very, very deadly. Can just barrage that poor fort assembly. Has a very, very easy line of sight. So overall, I'm guessing this is going to do a lot of damage to the Brits. Whereas on the left side, the Brits are just sitting pretty. They do have their troops all encamped up on the buildings, and it doesn't really look like Natchex is having any successes in dealing with them. Nice dodge on the grenades, and that's going to basically mean that these poor assault grenadiers have to retreat as far away from these infantry sections as possible. They're really getting sniped away way too much for them to have a healthy dinner. Right now, yeah, it seems like Natchex needs a bit of a change in direction. Maybe a mechanized assault group might be a good idea right now, although his opponent is going for an AEC. So Vladimir Putin very nicely coming up, securing the fuel point, securing the cutoff with a fuel cache, and then with that extra fuel going out and getting himself an early vehicle. That is definitely what he needed to go at this point. And he can use that early vehicle to continue to bully Natchex even further, or to help out his allies either in the center or in the right. In the right, they're going to need that help soon as the Lukes is approaching the front lines. Although, a very interesting positioning for this Bofors emplacement from, of course, Oddball does throw a bit of a wrench in the Lukes' plan. I mean, Lukes is going to lose one-on-one to that Bofors, so he doesn't really want to get involved with that emplacement a little bit. And yeah, that is just going to be what he wants to do. He wants to flank in and do as much damage to the rear as possible. Right now, it just seems like, yeah, if you were to catch this guy building, but nah, he's not going to be able to because he doesn't see them. That is very unfortunate. That is very, very unfortunate. And still, it does look like the Allies are going to be able to hold this right flank quite well. Really, the only saving grace for the Germans right now is the center. We have Ironhide continuing to push up, getting some MGs off on the buildings. Those can definitely protect the center quite well, but it remains to be seen whether he can get all of his units together and go and help one of his allies out, because that's what he needs to do right now. He needs to do some good moves in that direction. Although it seems like the Germans on the right side are actually having some successes. They take out one of the squads that was building the fort assembly. They also take out the mortar pit with the flamers. Very nice usage of the attack round by Kakatar. And yeah, he's gonna be able to wipe out that rifle squad if he chases. Oh, that is definitely a mistake. He should have chased that Luke's. That was a bit of a mistake. And yeah, overall, he can take down the fort assembly and use all of these troops over here to maybe come in and throw some incendiary grenades on the Bofors emplacement, thus securing that avenue of retreat, essentially. Because at this point, if he were to retreat his forces from the right side to the rear, he would, of course, run into the Bofors as he runs away, and that's kind of a problem. That is really the only problem that the Bofors right now provides for him, because really he doesn't really need to use that route for any for anything else. And it looks like he's going to go in with our Ken River to take that down. That's quite fine. Of course, there's also a Su-76 over here. Su-76 clearly bought to counter down the Panzer II Lukes, but the Panzer II is having a nice, easy time. Although it takes a lot of damage from the artillery mode of the Su-76 actually. I wasn't really expecting that. Still, Su-76 is, well, a little bit pressed for help because right now he's getting Panzerfausted down and he's going to have to escape. In the center, we still have the SimCity building up from Puppet 22, and I think that this is a bit of a mistake because he needs a little bit of extra flexibility and ability to push in against the enemy to have any kind of chance of success. He needs to push in against Ironhide and put pressure on him, lest Ironhide give actual help to his allies, and that's what he's doing right now. The AC looks like it's going to go down. That unfortunate smoke screen wasn't really enough to save it because, of course, the infantry were able to just walk through and finish it off. Yeah, we have the machine gun, but the machine gun was a little bit too far to the back to support the AC, so that was a bit of a problem. That was a mistake on the part of Vladimir Putin. He should have used his infantry and his support weapons to actually help his light vehicle. Looks like the center is doing just fine for Ironhide. He has a lot of fuel, so he could be going for a tier 3 or a tier 4 right now. I would go for a tier 4 and try to go for a Panther because I know that the allies have a couple of fuel points under their belt and they also have some caches. I'm not sure if the Germans do know about the caches though. Let's check out from the Fog of War. They do not know about the cache. Nope, they don't. But overall, yeah, the allies have 2 fuel points, so if I was Ironhide, I would really be thinking about a Panther because the allies are definitely going to go for some heavy vehicles down the line. Natchex is going to have the Tiger, but he does also have a support armor core, so he can go for Panzer IVs if he so requires, or I'm guessing he's going to go for some Stugs at this point. We still have a bit of a fight over the center, but nothing too important. I'm thinking the Brits are going to lose this engagement if the Axis can use these buildings to their advantage and get a couple of nice support gun shots. Oh, excellently using that barrage ability to try to take down the machine gun as quickly as possible. That is, of course, the main target for Ironhide right now, although it looks like the infantry is going to get suppressed and eventually fall to the combined might of the infantry and support. Although, yeah, there's just a very, very small retreat path for the allies, so they can simply reinforce off of the fort assembly and heal up, and then come back in. So that's why they're able to come back and secure the central VP. Yeah, I would still be thinking about Panthers if I was Ironhide. He does have a supply half-track, and I'm guessing that he's going to turn that into a Schwer Panzer headquarters. What about Karakuto? He has a decent force, but yeah, he needs some extra infantry. He's got the manpower required, so he's going for that. He's got a support armor core, and he has, of course, picked fortified armor, so that means elephants are available for later, and that would be quite okay. I mean, Leglease as a map does have some problems with the line of sight, elevation, etc. for the elephants, but he's going to be able to use them to quite good effect on the right side. It is really the more open area on the map, and yeah, he might just want to go for that, just in case his opponents go for some kind of heavy armor or heavy anti-tank like Fireflies. Muskus is waiting for the Su-122, which gets countered by the elephants, so that one might be a bit of a problem for the allies later on down the line. We have a Centaur from Oddball, and overall it looks like he's just going to be going for some units from his tier 3. Centaur at this point is, I'm thinking, a pretty bad move because the Germans really ought to have actually built up their anti-tank by this point. Looks like there's some kind of artillery falling down. Oh right, it's the Su-76. Softening up the Storm Pioneers, coming in with the Centaur, and actually taking down the Sniper with the Centaur. So that was definitely a worthy little pickup for our allied players. That was very nice, and he's able to just plow on through and force the retreat of all these German units. Looks like the incendiary armor piercing rounds from the MG aren't really going to be able to do too much, and because of the twin 20mm cannons, the MG42 is going to get shredded. Although that's not enough to take down the engine of the the Centaur with that Panzerfaust. That is very unfortunate. Still, Raketenwerfer fires at the Centaur, and right now the Centaur needs to get around and flank the German units. Although he runs back into the line of sight of this Raketenwerfer, that might be a bit of a mistake. The Raketenwerfer is going to get forced away by the shock troops. So good coordination coming in from Muskus and Oddball. Definitely securing that win on the engagement, and with that they can secure the right side VP and force away the Axis from that area. Looks like in the center we have another hurrah from Ironhide. he's going to be able to get some good damage off on the infantry, but again, because of that very close forward assembly and incredibly fortified area with mortars and of course Bofors as well, yeah, that is not... Wait, is that 2 forward assemblies? Yes, that is 2 forward assemblies from Puppet. Yeah, he's just so well fortified up in this area. There's not much that Ironhide can do right now to dislodge him. Maybe he would have to go for a Stuka to have a fighting chance against that, but you know, he's going for a Panzer IV Aus J. Not the worst decision, but also I don't think the best decision either. Looks like on the left side, we have another AC from Vladimir Putin, and that's definitely a mistake. He needed to go for a heavy, maybe not a heavy, but definitely a heavier vehicle. Because at this point, he knew that his opponents were starting to get some extra fuel to go for some later tier units. So having that AEC doesn't really do too much for you. I mean, you already have some lighter AT capabilities with the Piats. That was an excellent bundle grenade. Takes down one of the squads. So it looks like Vladimir Putin overall is actually falling below the level of Natcheks. Natcheks coming back into play very, very strongly is going to force a lot of pressure from the Brits to be relieved from the center just to help him out. And yeah, it looks like Caractato Salve is just able to come in with P4. So lots of P4s coming in from the Germans. Yeah, that's why I would have thought that Ironhide would have gone for a Panther, because with all the P4s already around and with, well, definitely some heavier late game armor from the Brits coming in, that might be a better idea. But it looks like the Brits are just very, very focused on their emplacement spam. I mean, Fuppet is wasting 300 fuel right now with that float. Musku's 370, and Vladimir Putin, well, he was floating 200, but now he's going for a Churchill, actually. So, really, the only one who's using, well, other than Vladimir Putin, his fuel is Oddball, and he's using that on a Centaur and even a 17-pounder. So, definitely not the heavy or medium armor that we were expecting out of a, well, out of an alliance that had 2 fuel points under their control for most of the game. So, that team definitely wasting their potential and advantage in that, and right now they're paying the consequences. I mean, Ironhide is able to help Natcheks recapture the left side. For the first time in about 15 minutes, the Germans have control over the left side, and they're now able to come in with more forces towards the center. The Allies do have a triple cap going, and right now the Germans are down to 257 points, which is of course not very good, but they're coming back and they're capturing the left side. If they can use these Panzer IVs correctly, they can come in and definitely flank the position of Puppet 22. And that's the thing about all these defenses. They're very, very good when the enemy comes in from the front. But if the enemy comes in from the rear and they're able to take down the forward assemblies first, rather than having to fight for the Bofors and the infantry first, then they're going to have a much more easy time dealing with the rest, because they don't have the forward assemblies to reinforce very quickly and retreat in case they take casualties. And they don't have the extra support coming in from that Bofors. So overall, this is not a very good tactical situation for the British at all. They're in a pretty tough spot, and they might just get saved by Vladimir Putin's Churchill. Although with only 2 infantry sections supporting it, I'm guessing that the plentiful Panzerfausts coming in from the Germans are going to be able to quite easily take down this Churchill, or at least slow it down enough so that the Panzer IVs can escape and perhaps go do some better things, such as smash down these forward assemblies. So overall, not the best situation for Fuppet. He's gonna get some help from his Sherman Firefly and from his Churchill, or rather from his allies' Churchill. So this Panzer IV is definitely in a bad spot. We also have some artillery coming in, and that's a precision barrage. That is very bad for this Panzer IV, because that provides some actual, I would say crowd control, but it really isn't. I guess you could say snare effects. Of course, it can stun and it can damage the engine, and that does happen. Of course, the Firefly with that long range plus the Churchill are going to be able to take down that Panzer IV. So very good little engagement for the Brits. He's also using an anti-building flame mortar support to at least force away the MG. It's not going to be the most valuable little thing to do, but overall it just seems like with that Panzer IV gone, the German infantry aren't really going to be able to do too much because of the threat of those grenades and the cannon on that Churchill. Overall, it just seems like the Allies are going to get slowed down slightly, but not stopped due to that. And right now, the Germans are coming in from the front as well, and they're using this Panzer IV to good effect to take down the Bofors. However, there's a vet-free Su-76 assault gun, which comes in a pretty bad position because there's a Stug over here watching this side. Panzer IV should use some smoke rounds at this point, yeah, it does, and that kind of forces in the Stug because it's locked in attack move, or rather, just attack order on this Bofors. This could spell the end of that Stug as the veterancy-free Su-76 is firing on it, and that's a very, very fast-firing unit, taking down the Stug and forcing it to retreat. In the meantime, on the sort of more extreme left part of the center, we have the British vehicles coming in and taking down a sniper, and looks like a couple more infantry units were forced to withdraw for the Germans. This is not the best situation, although the Germans definitely showing signs of life. They were very, very much in a bad spot earlier, but now they seem to be able to recover. They've taken down one of the forward assemblies, they've taken the left side, and are now able to fortify it up quite well. The Panzer IV from Natchez actually didn't take part of that offensive, so overall it can help defend the left side as well as possibly push into the center after actually his allies rebuild some forces and get some pushes going. Right now also seems like the Su-76 vet-free is in pretty big trouble. They have to retreat as well, and getting some repairs should be not the easiest thing to do considering the area is under artillery fire. What kind of artillery fire do I have no idea. Looks like a howitzer. Yep, howitzer from Sauron. So the Dark Lord using the dark arts of the artillery to smash down some SimCities. And that at this point, along with the death of the Centaur, swings things around in the Germans' favor, partially because Sauron very smartly went for the eye over here. So he's got a bit of a all-seeing eye with that map hack half-track. And at this point, it looks like the Churchill's in trouble because it's getting flanked by the Fleet 4 and a couple of Panzergrenadiers. So overall, not the best possible spot for the Churchill. Getting surrounded, of course, by those very, very nasty Panzergrenadiers with those two Panzerschrecks and the Panzer IV. Although the Panzer IV, unluckily for Natchez, it wasn't really all well managed. I mean, it could have just gone behind the Churchill. What you want to do whenever your vehicle needs to prevent an enemy from escaping in a direction is you want to get behind him and then just press S, which is the stop key. You might have a different bind, but you just press the key that orders the vehicle to stop. That way the enemy vehicle, for some reason, will not phase through yours. Normally in company vehicles, of course, vehicles just kind of phase through each other all the time. But if you just mash S, it may not do that. And so you can just kind of body block the opposing vehicle into not escaping. And yeah, so we have lots of Churchills coming in from Vladimir Putin. Vladimir Putin going for that big AVRE. He could use it to good effect, considering Natchez is really focused on that infantry / bunker play, I see. He does have a couple of bunkers, and of course one of his MGs is hiding out in the house. So that AVRE does have exactly the right card to deal with all of those threats. We have to see whether or not it can actually hit these Panzergrenadiers, though. Yeah, that might... Well, he doesn't need to hit the Panzergrenadiers because he's just, well, running them over. But the Panzergrenadiers have Panzerschrecks. So the AVRE should definitely be a little bit afraid of what these guys can do. I mean, the Bisa MG might just help, and that's the Petard mortar. And that derp engagement is over. Interesting. One problem with Vladimir Putin is that he only has one Royal Engineer. So yeah, he's going for a second one. With two Churchills around, he's going to need a lot of repair power because these things have a lot of HP. That means that you need to spend a lot of time with your engineers just repairing when they take damage. And yeah, it seems like we actually got Kakarot taking two Raken Rivers, borrowing them from Ironhide, I'm guessing, and using those to defend the center in a very peculiar way. Also, it looks like he went for the destruction of the Bofors. So very good job from Kakarot, managing to take down a very annoying Bofors, which was set up in a very, very good crossroads, just to prevent the German infantry from being able to use that crossroads to just move around more efficiently. And now that that's gone, as you can see, the German forces are just pouring through with Karakot's little Command Panzer IV providing buffs to his infantry, and of course his normal Panzer IV destroying that mortar emplacement. Veteran C3 mortar emplacement dead. There's a Sherman Firefly in the area that's trying to do some work, but it's really not getting a lot done. I mean, there's a couple of Reckenwerfers forcing away those tank destroyers, and right now it seems like the Germans have control of the center as well, and the Panzer IVs are racing through and trying to get to that Sherman Firefly. That might not be the best decision because, there might be more enemy forces in the area, and there are. There's an Su-85 and a big Zviera Boy Su-152. That could not be, could not be good for the Germans, but it looks like the Su-85 actually had that in the bag already. We have another flank coming in from the Panzer IV from Natchez, and he's using that to good effect to destroy the Su-76. In fact, the Su-76 is in a bit of a bad position, blocked by the Su-152, but for some reason Natchez didn't finish off the Su-76, so this is going to be biting the Germans in the rear once again, although this is not the best possible little position for Vladimir Putin's AVRE. He's getting shot at by Ironhide's Command Panther, which is now in the field. And overall, not using that coordinated fire means that he's going to have to chase down the AVRE a little bit more. But, yeah, I'm guessing that it's going to go down eventually, especially if Ironhide's Panther is a little bold. Although there is a Zviera Boy ISU-152 in the area. It looks like it's on HE rounds, so it really doesn't have as much of a capacity to hurt that Panther. There's a couple of TDs and a Churchill, well no, only one TD, a Su-85 and a Churchill providing some support against the Panther, but the Panther is going to be able to escape. With this Zviera Boy firing at the Reckenwerfer and hitting a building, it didn't even use his HE rounds to try to stun the Panther. That is something that you can do. Although the Panther's taking rear fire from a couple of Piats, so not the best position, and there's a lot of Churchills and Cromwells and Fireflies and Su-85s coming in from the Allies. They are getting kind of countered, actually, by this SDKFZ half-track with the Panzerschrecks. So, of course, the mechanized assault coming in to good use from Natchez. He's going to take a nasty hit from the 17-pounder, and that basically means that he needs to get his infantry out to not, blow up with the half-track. That means that the BSMGs from the base can suppress them and save the Allied vehicles. Although, very nice damage is done with these raids. This might not be too good, though. The Command Panther gets stolen from the Allies, although nice play from Natchez Panzer IV comes in and takes it out. Needs to not stay in the area, though, because there's a lot of potential nasty business coming in from all that AT that the Brits have in the area. Yeah, overall not that good, but in the meantime, the Axis are doing some good work around the map. They're coming in with that Panzer IV command tank. Unfortunately, the Grenadiers are not going to have a good time against this 12 Papa Shah shock troop force, but the shock troops really can't do too much against the P4 command tank. They're, of course, waiting for the Su-76 to come in and force away the Panzer IV. But that does not take away from the fact that the P4 was harassing down that fuel cache, and if they can take that down, then they can actually cut off all the German points the Allied points on the right side. There's a Comet tank from Oddball, and that's trying to protect the right side. Also, a couple of emplacements are protecting the right side, but very nicely, the artillery piece from Sauron, aided by the map hacks of the infrared half-track, are just blowing up all these emplacements. So definitely going in for that great counter with the artillery piece. Sauron providing a massive boost to his team's chances of winning, along with Ironhide's nice pushes coming in. The Allies right now are in a bit of a pickle because they were holding down the center very strongly, and they kind of had that as a bit of a backbone to their defensive system. And once that fell, the Axis, as you can see, were just able to push through, flood into the rear areas right near the base, and that kind of means that at this point, the Allies are kind of off balance. They don't really know where to put their forces for them to be more efficiently used, and because of that, we see things like, as you can see, this giant concentration of Allied vehicles in the area, facing up against not really too much. I mean, there's a Tiger, a JP4, and a P4 for the Axis in the area. Whereas on the extreme right, you can see that there's a lot more forces that are just kind of unopposed, and they can blow up all the buildings with their artillery support. Perhaps if they were a little bit bolder, they could even come in with their Ken Riffers and speed up the process along with their KT. And yeah, it just generally looks like the allies need to, I guess, rethink their strategy. They don't really seem to know what to do right now. They are pushing up with all their vehicles, though, in one spot. That is definitely good. If they can concentrate all these vehicles into one area, take that down, and retake one of the VPs, and then fortify it, they're going to have at least base to work off with. Although it looks like the Firefly does go down, the JP4 is in trouble from the two, 3-pounder guns. I believe those are 3-pounders. From, of course, the Cromwell and the Churchill Mark 7. But there's a Tiger on the field, so Tiger plus the Elephant from Kakato definitely going to be able to deal with the remaining British vehicles in the area. So this is definitely a big win for the Germans. They're also able to, with a couple of support guns, it looks like, take down all of the supporting weapons from the Brits, whereas it looks like the Germans didn't even have to bring in a lot of infantry or support weapons to begin with. So AVRE tries to come in and flank the Elephant for some reason, and that's not going to go down very well. I mean, the Elephant really only has to worry about getting baited by the AVRE and then flanked by something else, and that looks like will not happen as the AVRE does go down, misses the Petard mortar, and right now with the support of, well, a lot of different units, the Germans are going to be able to take that down quite easily. And yeah, Panther comes in, bullies around the infantry sections, and overall it looks like the Germans will solidify control over the center and left side. We do have Karakuto just putting his infantry over here, making sure that nothing can come in and capture the VP in the center. And yeah, the Brits are having to put up a 17-pounder right outside their base. So this is a very, very inefficient use of an emplacement because, of course, you want the emplacement where it can essentially influence the battle the most because it's not going to be able to move around. So if an emplacement is right outside the base, what if you push up and you capture this left side of the map and you get to the center? Well, this emplacement is actually just wasted pop cap and wasted resources. So this is why having to put down an emplacement right now near the base is very bad for the Allies, and they perhaps should have done something a little bit better. And it looks like on the right side we have a nice push coming in from Sauron. He's able to destroy one of the Bofors guns. He's still having to deal with the 17-pounder, but the 17-pounder really doesn't have anything to shoot at. And if, of course, with no Bofors, Sauron can push in his infantry, although Sauron's about to get blown up by that. Oh, damn. Looks like, yeah, that was not a good day for Sauron, losing one of the squads and taking huge losses on the other two squads from that demo charge. But overall, that doesn't really matter because it's not like his opponents have too much of an infantry force around to counter this in any kind of way. So it looks like a third VP is going to fall to the Germans, and that's going to be a third VP, so a triple cap, and looks like with 280 VPs left, I mean, the Allies aren't going to have all that much time left to fix this. I mean, they of course have around 4.5 minutes. Wait, no. What? Well, they do have around 4.5 minutes, yes, if that triple cap endures, although it looks like they have a nice push coming in from the shock troops in the center, so that's not too bad. They should be able to recapture that center, but if the Germans come in with, for example, these Obersoldaten and then one of their vehicles, they should be able to deal with the shock troops. Of course, they don't really have any AT weapons, so that's exactly the way that they should be dealing with them, especially with something like this Panzer IV command tank that isn't needed anywhere else. Yeah, it could be fine. It looks like, yeah, the Allies are just trying to fortify up right near the base. So again, this is kind of the weakness of players who rely too much on the SimCity mechanic. If your SimCity gets busted, well, then you're going to be off balance, and then you're not really going to have a force that can deal with the enemy because you've been spending all your resources and your pop cap into emplacements. And so when those go down, well, you're left without too much, and then you lose your territory because you were only keeping it because of the emplacements, and then you don't have anything to recapture it. Whereas if you actually had normal units, if you lose an engagement and get forced back, you still have your units. You can still come in and try to recapture your territory. That's just kind of the thing. And a mine takes down a Comet. That's very unfortunate. Looks like the Comet suicided to take down the infrared half-track. Now the funny thing is the infrared half track is only like 200 manpower and 5 fuel. So if Sauron wanted to just rebuild that, he could at any time. And yeah, that's just kind of sad for the Allies that they were basically forced to use a like what 500 and something manpower, 540. Oh, he went for, damn it, they're all going for Anvil. Oh yeah, right, they have Churchills, of course they weren't going for Anvil. Comet. So 500 manpower, 185 fuel vehicle to take down a 200 manpower 5 fuel vehicle. So that's kind of a discrepancy, as you may guess. And yeah, right now the Germans are just flooding across. There's 2 Panthers and a Tiger for Natchez. He's just coming in and trying as hard as possible to put pressure on the Brits right near the base as well. Takes a nasty petard mortar, but Vladimir Putin doesn't really have anything that can chase down, and right now it looks like the German armor is just trying to squeeze through these trees and just destroy the British base. Although this might not be the best decision of all time, it is still quite funny that they're doing that. If I was them, I would have gone in and just swept across this little area, coming in from the rear to Oddball's little fortified position. But at this point, Sauron should be able to deal with the fortifications in the area quite easily anyway. As soon as he knows where they are, of course, he can just kind of blast them with the threat-free howitzer. 31 kills, damn, that's pretty good. And he's also going for a Stuka, so even more artillery to take down both infantry and emplacements. Not the best situation to be in if I was, of course, Oddball. And yeah, I don't think the Brits are going to be able to recover from this. Overall, I would say very good play from Sauron, plus generically better coordination and better strategy from the Germans coming into this, rather than relying on, of course, the massive SimCity spam. They just kind of went for a more traditional type of play, and they just kind of waited for the late game. I mean, they didn't have the fuel advantage, but because the Allies all squandered it up on SimCity, and then they didn't really push it too far either after they were done with the SimCity building, they didn't really use their fuel all too effectively. Because of that, the Germans were able to sort of do away with their disadvantages of having less fuel and get out heavy armor about as quickly as the Brits were able to. And of course, the Germans, with the Tiger, with the Panthers, the command vehicles, they have a bit of an upper hand when it comes to this game. Just like the Brits have a bit of an upper hand when it comes to defenses. But again, once those defenses are gone, the Germans can just kind of stomp through with their big heavy tanks, and there's not much the Brits were able to do about it. Despite the best efforts, by the way, of Muskus, who was able to come in at least with the Su-76 and do some good work with that, and then he had this Viraboy ISU-152 that did quite well, and the shock troops, of course, providing extra capping power that was much needed by the Allies. Overall, it was not enough. I would say that Oddball played pretty well, going for a Comet. At least he went for a bit of extra mobility, but his 2 allies, of course, Puppet and Vladimir Putin, going for his Churchills, along with already a defensive-oriented SimCity type of playstyle. That was not too great, because, of course, if you're already kind of constrained to your position by SimCity, you don't want to add on to that with Churchills that are really slow. You might want a unit that's fast and zippy, like the Comet, to chase down enemies when they get damaged by your SimCity line. For example, the enemy tank comes in, takes a shot from your 17-pounder, takes another shot while it's retreating. Now it's at half HP, and then if you have a Churchill, you don't really have any options to chase them down and destroy them. But if you have a Comet, then maybe you can try to do that and get the kill. But overall, that's going to be about it. I want to thank y'all for watching. Now, I don't really have any replays right now, so if you do have any replays to submit to me, please do that. Link is going to be in the description, as always, for my email. As always, hope you all enjoyed. If you haven't subscribed to my channel, do so. More content like this will come, and I'll see you soon.